y'all. Welcome to another episode of Blackpacking. And on today's episode, I have Felicia with me.
Hi.
And Felicia is a travel blogger, and her travel blog is Black Girl with a Backpack. And very similar to Blackpacking, not to get those confused. But yeah, Felicia, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Oh, well, I'm Felicia. I am old and grown. I'm 34. I live in Nashville where I work a remote job, and I am really passionate about solo travel and travel for people who feel like they don't have the means to do it, or they're just uncomfortable traveling by themselves, or, they're just like, I don't know where to start. Like, how do I get my passport? Well, what about my health issues? Like, I really like to focus on people that I think tend to get left out when it comes to, like, travel media and travel blogging and, like, travel Instagram accounts.
Yeah. And so you're from Nashville. You've been there about 16 years, you said?
Yeah, I'm from West Tennessee, like middle of nowhere. There were cows up the street from my house when I was growing up. They were not ours, but they were there. And I moved to Nashville to go to college, and here I am, all this time later.
What was that like growing up in Western Tennessee? I'm curious.
It was interesting. Like, my town was primarily white. My school was very small. Like, the entire school across high school, middle school, and, like, elementary school, there were maybe 500 students. My graduating class had, like, 32 people in it, and everyone who was Black, I either had known them my whole life or they were related to me.
So going to going to Nashville was, like, a bigger experience. Did you find more diversity in Nashville?
So Nashville was, I won't even say it was bigger, it was just different.
Yeah.
I was one of those kids who was involved in, like, every club and activity you can think of that wasn't a sport. So I was traveling a lot. Like, I was constantly going to Memphis, Nashville, Knoxville, to, like, compete and stuff and things like that. So coming to Nashville to actually go to school was just like, oh, I live here now. And it was more diverse than I was used to, but not as diverse as it could have been, because I went to Vanderbilt, which is a primarily white institution. And there I decided I should study African American and diaspora studies, because doesn't that just make all the sense? So it was just different. And it was just like more people, and people who were in different, like, socioeconomic classes was probably the biggest difference. Like, race wasn't so much a thing as, like, social class was.
Right. I could see that. The most recent trip that you've gone on.
Yeah. So I actually just came back from Morocco a little over a week ago at this point. I stayed there for 8 days, spent a day in Lisbon on the way home, but unfortunately by the time I got to Lisbon, I was so tired.
I'm sure.
All I did was order food through Uber Eats, take a bath, and go to bed. So I had a great time, though. I stayed in Marrakesh, but then I traveled out to Essaouira, Casablanca, and then did a day trip to Zoud Falls, which was great until it wasn't. So yeah, it was a great trip. There was just a lot going on. I planned a lot more than I did the last time I took a trip. So there was just, like, a lot more regulated activity for me.
Yeah. And were you able to get to all those things, or did you feel like you ran out of time a little bit?
So the only thing I signed up to do and paid for that I didn't do was, like, a walking tour of Marrakesh. And honestly, I don't know who I thought I was fooling. I am not a morning person. I've never been a morning person. It's like the first time I scheduled it, it was, like, Monday morning at 8 a.m.
Oh, wow.
I got in at Sunday evening at, like, 5. So I don't know what I was thinking. It was a horrible idea. Like, I messaged the guy on Airbnb, because it was an Airbnb experience, and he's like, oh, you can just take the Thursday tour. The Thursday tour was at 9, and Thursday I woke up and I felt like crap, and all I did was stay in the bed all day.
Oh, no.
That's really the only thing I didn't get around to doing. but it was okay because honestly, it helped me not go to places that I wouldn't actually enjoy, because I did kind of pinch myself in that situation so that I didn't have time to go to all of that stuff because I didn't do that tour. I left out a lot of stuff that I didn't really care about.
Yeah, it happened. What were some of your like favorite parts about going to Morocco?
I think one of my favorite parts, and I feel like this will be really surprising to some people, is that because it's a conservative Muslim country, alcohol is not a big thing. So when you would go out to eat, there were all of these drink options, and almost every one of them was completely alcohol free, which is great because I stopped drinking because of migraines, which is a whole nother situation. But I found that like it was just really surprising because I didn't think anything about it. But then you'd go and you'd have these big drink menus, and it's just like all of these are non-alcoholic. It's like, oh, okay, that's cool.
That is cool. Are they like mocktails?
Excuse me. Yes. So they are basically mocktails. Like they had a virgin mojito where it was just made with the cane sugar and the mint and sugar, and sparkling water. So like it was pretty cool. Like I enjoyed most of the stuff I tried.
That is really cool. What kind of food there did you try that you enjoyed?
So this is going to come as a great shock to a lot of people, I think. And I'm going to kind of bracket this by saying that I am primarily vegetarian. I very seldom eat anything that had a face at some point. And usually seldom equals there's not much of a choice. Or it was chicken, it was fried, and I thought it was delicious looking. Like, I'll be real about that.
Yeah.
So I ate like vegetarian couscous, vegetarian tagine, and it got old really quick because like it was bland. That was really, really shocking that I would go to this place where like they're renowned for their spice markets, and everyone's like, you have to go to the spice markets, you have to buy spices, and the food was so bland. Like it wasn't like it was unseasoned, it's just like it didn't have any salt in it, like at all. So like everything was super flat tasting, even if you could tell that they had seasoned it with like actual spices and stuff.
Yeah.
Like everything was just kind of flat.
Yeah, and I guess were you kind of having the same thing all the time too? Were your vegetarian options limited?
So there was basically, if you're talking just like standard Moroccan cuisine, there's harira, which is a soup that has like chickpeas in it, and it's actually really good. That's one of the few things I ate that was well seasoned. And then yeah, when it comes to like couscous and tagine, like they might slightly alter the ingredients, but for the most part it's the same thing. And I'm not that person. Like if I eat something and it's okay, I'm not gonna make myself eat it again. So one night I went and found a cheese pizza that made me extraordinarily happy. And like my last night there, I went and found a Chili's. Not even gonna lie.
You found a Chili's in Morocco?
Yes, there's a Chili's in the new city in Marrakesh, and it's basically over where the mall and all the other stuff that you would build up in a new city is. So it's in the newer part of the city, but it definitely exists.
Wow.
I'm as shocked as you are. I was like, let me just see if I can find some kind of American food or some kind of Mexican food or something. Like, surely somebody has had this idea.
Yeah.
Not a McDonald's. And there was a Chili's, and I was so glad.
Yeah, I know the struggle. I also don't eat meat, and when you're traveling abroad, it limits your options of what you can eat even more. Even if you're like in an American airport, you're sometimes it's just hard to find something to eat.
Yeah, I definitely get that a lot, and that was honestly the reason I got a little more flexible. Like, where I'm like, if I'm traveling and it's just like, all I'm going to be eating is salad because they put meat in everything, as long as it's not pork and it's not red meat, I can probably deal.
Yeah.
So it's like, I typically avoid eating chicken and fish, but if that's what you give me and there's not much of a choice other than that, I'm going to eat it.
Yeah, and it's hard, especially when you're going to a new country and you want to kind of like, really dive into the culture and like experience everything. And it's hard when there's not a lot of vegetarian options as far as food. At least I've found that to be difficult for myself. Like missing out on some things.
Yeah, definitely. And that was one of the things I actually was told by actual Moroccan people who lived in Marrakesh, was that like the meat tagines were much more flavorful than the vegetarian tagine, and the same thing was true with couscous. So they were like, oh yeah, I could definitely see how you feel that way because you didn't eat any meat. It's like, that's because I don't eat any meat and I shouldn't have to for you to season my food.
Right? um, what did you learn about Morocco while you were there that you kind of didn't know, other than that they have a Chili's?
You're not gonna let me live that one down.
I don't know if I'm gonna let Morocco live that down.
I mean, this is the thing. Like, I get it. I feel like anywhere where you have that clash of old and new,
Yeah,
you're gonna find at least something like that.
yeah, and just like catering to tourists,
Right, or just people who like live in the new part of the city. Like, they're usually younger, they have more money. They will actually spend money on that type of thing.
Yeah.
Let me see. What did I learn while I was in Morocco? I learned how to say no thank you in Arabic.
Oh, yeah?
And I learned that if you yell at people in 3 different languages, they might just leave you alone.
How do you say no thank you in Arabic?
So, no thank you is Allah shukran. Because shukran is just thank you and la is just no. So, you're just throwing them together and they actually translate correctly. Which is not always the case for any, like, language.
Right. Wow, yeah. So did you just have, like, a lot of, like, vendors kind of hassling you to buy things? Was that your issue?
So when you're in the Medina, or especially if you go to Jemel Sana, the big square, everything is really tight and really close quarters, and there are a lot of vendors. And most of them are really chill. If you're like, no, thank you, I'm not interested, the end, they leave you alone. No one's grabbing on you. But some of them are really, really aggressive. And honestly, some of them were just downright underhanded, that if you didn't know better, they would have gotten you. So, like, for the really aggressive people, it literally went, just like, no, and, like, shaking my head and, like, doing my hands, to, like, no, in French, just like no, in French, while still shaking my head and doing my hands. And if they still didn't leave me after that, I was just like, no, just no. Like, I probably would have been scared of me if I were them, to be quite honest. It was just like, if you want to be aggressive, I can be aggressive. We can do this. But I think for anyone who's thinking about going, there's a fine line between what you will read in a lot of the blogs, where they're just like, oh, you have to watch out because your pockets will be picked and the men will steal you away and you'll go to jail. Like, they kind of take it to the point of fear-mongering. Like, yes, be aware, but don't be so hyper-aware that you end up not enjoying yourself, because that was definitely me the first day I went out. Like, I was so scared that someone was going to try and steal my bag or, like, beat me over the head and steal my phone or something, that I was just, like, really tight and closed in. I wouldn't talk to anybody. I wouldn't stop to look at anything. And I realized really quickly that I was going to be miserable if I kept that up. So, like, don't be dumb and not pay attention to what's going on around you, but relax is kind of the big thing for me. Do definitely be careful when you're out in the main square, because I actually did a short video on my IGTV about this. Like, the grannies, like these older women, these elderly women who are trying to do henna, and they will basically try and trick you into letting them do something and making you pay them. So you have to be careful for that. Like, if someone walks up and they're like, oh, no, just small, it's a gift for you, it's free, just walk away. Just don't do it, because that's definitely a trick. I believe paying people what they're worth, for sure, and not, like, trying to shortchange people or get over because I think I'm special and American. but at the same time, I don't like being approached aggressively by anyone.
Yeah, that was like, would you say that was probably like what you didn't like there the most, was just like the aggression from some of the people there?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that would definitely be the thing. And it's specifically the people in the square. Like, people in the Medina, like, in the little Medina, like, side streets and stuff, they were, like, kind of extra, but it's really in the square where that, like, hyper-aggressiveness came out. Other than that, everyone there was extremely kind, really sweet, and honestly amazing, because everyone speaks at least 2 languages because they speak Arabic. And then they speak French. And technically you could probably consider it 3, because Marrakesh does have, like, or Morocco does have its own kind of dialectical version of Arabic, where, like, if you speak formal Arabic, they will understand you, but when they speak back, you probably won't necessarily understand a lot of what they're saying. So that's pretty interesting.
And do you speak French?
I do not. My only other halfway decent language is Spanish. My general rule is that if I don't speak the language somewhere, I at least learn to speak, say thank you, goodbye, and maybe where's the bathroom.
Yeah.
If it's not a language I speak, I try to just know enough to get by, or at least so that people aren't looking at you like, you stupid person, how dare you come to my country and not even try.
Yeah. Right. So, why do you, like, choose to travel? It seems like it's something that's, like, really important to you. Why is it something that you choose to spend your money on?
Yeah, so for me, like I said, I come from a really small, really rural town that was primarily white. And so I'm not going to lie, while most of my upbringing was perfectly fine and wonderful and super peaceful, I did get hit with some racism. Like, I got hit with some envy, some jealousy when it came time for us to graduate and go off to college. And it was like, initially in my mind, it was like, I'm going to travel and I'm going to show these people who they messed with. Like, I'm going to show them how horrible they are. Like, I was really intent on, like, proving all these people wrong and horrible. But as I got older, it kind of became like, I want to see how other people live. I want to see other places. Like, I enjoy being outside. I want to go do that, like, all over the world. And then it became kind of, well, it's money. You can't take it with you, and you can only have so much stuff. What else do you spend it on?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you can donate it, but you want to do something for yourself at some point.
Yeah.
For me, travel is like this great outlet. It gives me a chance to learn something new, live some new experiences, and in a lot of cases, it's me, like, getting over my own fears. Now, like, that first trip I took was a couple of years after I had a really bad car accident. I could drive, but I was pretty much terrified to do it. Like, I would have panic attacks if I tried to drive. So I made myself rent a car and drive 2.5, 3 hours away through the mountains, because I'm like, if I can do this by myself, I can drive again. So it was part of me just trying to get over that. And yeah, there was some panic attacks. They were like pulling over on the side of the road in places I probably should not have been pulled over because they looked really sketchy. But I did it. Like, I did it, and I made it back, and then I drove to see my parents, and I came back to Nashville. Everything was fine. And it's like, oh, yeah, you can do this. And then I decided to go zip lining while I was there because I was also really mortified of heights. And so I just started using my travel experiences to make myself face the stuff that scared me.
Yeah, I love that. I agree in some ways, too. Definitely with the heights. When I was in Ecuador, I'm not sure if you've seen the swing at the end of the world.
I've seen the ones like in Bali. I don't think I've seen the one in Ecuador.
Yeah, so there's one in Ecuador, and so you're kind of just on a tree, and someone like pushes you off this ramp, and once you're like pushed, you just see nothing but like valley underneath you, and there's a huge, like, you're like very high up in the mountains, and there's a huge volcano next to you, and that was like kind of my way to get over my fear of heights. So yeah, I I agree with you. Traveling, even like the act of traveling, is getting over a small fear in a way.
Yeah, definitely. For like, I don't know. I don't think I could do that even. Like, even though I'm not mortified of heights because I climbed up a mountain to go to a waterfall and climbed down a mountain to see a waterfall. Like, I'm not terrified of heights anymore. I can handle them, but that's a lot. I don't know if my heart would make it.
You have a seatbelt. You're strapped in, which helps.
I mean, in that case, I guess it's like no worse than a theme park ride. Just, more basic.
Yeah, it's a basic theme park ride. How far in advance do you plan your trip? Are you like a little bit more spontaneous, or do you plan like months ahead of time? Are you also like very detailed on like what you want to do when you plan a trip, or are you just kind of spontaneous?
Yeah, so for me, my trips are kind of semi-long-term plan. To a degree, it's usually, like, I actually have a list. I keep a spreadsheet in Google Sheets that just has a list of places that I know I want to visit. And then kind of as I start to do research and kind of get an idea of, like, what flights cost and what accommodations cost, like, I start filling that in with info. So then I kind of have the sheet that has all the places I want to go and kind of what I can expect to spend to go those places. And then I can say, okay, well, this is my budget for this year. This trip fits that. Or sometimes it just comes up, it's like, I want to go somewhere. This is the time frame I have to go somewhere. Where are tickets cheapest that I actually want to go? So it can go either way with me. Like, I don't plan anything for short term because I do have a certain set of medical issues. So I always have to make sure that I have time to make sure I have all my medication, that I get any vaccinations and stuff that I need. And that does kind of slow you down. Like, you're probably not going to up and fly to Thailand on a weekend when that kind of thing happens. So some planning, not necessarily 100% step-by-step planned, but always a general idea.
Right. Who's been the most interesting person that you've met while traveling?
Oh gosh, I love meeting people when I travel, and it's always the people I think most folks would ignore. Like, my first, big deal, you went out of the country alone was last year when I went to Mexico the week of my birthday. And I met this, older man, elderly gentleman, when I went to visit Monte Alban. And he was literally just, sitting at the top of one of, the ruined pyramids. And I come huffing and puffing up the top of these stairs. I probably looked like I was dying. I know my face was very red. And this old guy is just sitting there, and he has his little carvings, and, he does his thing. He tries to sell them. And I'm like, no, thank you. I don't want to buy anything, but is it okay if I sit here and drink water? And then he starts talking to me, and he's like, you did good. That's a hard climb. And then he starts, telling me about the pueblos that are out in the mountains, and he kind of points out where his town is in the mountains, because you can see all of these towns, in the side of the mountains and, out away from the ruins. But he's like, yeah, that is where I live, and this is actually what we do in my village. I hand make these. And he was just really chill to talk to. And, he tried to sell me things, but he wasn't super aggressive. And, he was so nice, and I'm just sitting here I just want to catch my breath. I'm dying. And he was just really sweet about everything. And he let me take his picture, and I tried my best in my semi-decent Spanish to explain what I would do with it. I showed it to him and I asked him to let me know if he liked it. And that's probably my first, oh my God, this person is so cool experience.
That's cool.
So it's I like to meet those people, the people who are just trying to live their life. They're not doing anything fancy. It's nothing ridiculous. And I kind of gravitate toward older people no matter where I am, because come on, older people have the best stories.
Yeah, they really do. I feel like I always think that I somehow attract not the strangest people, but people that will like just sit down and like have a basic conversation with me, like no intentions. Maybe they are trying to sell me something, but they'll just have like, a random conversation with me. And I always feel like I attract those people when I'm traveling, but it's okay because we end up having like the best conversations. Usually I just like roll with it and see where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm just like, I'm traveling. The whole point of traveling is to not do the things you normally do.
Yeah, which is like talk to strangers.
Right. Like, for me, traveling means I'm actually socializing with people.
Yeah.
Like, I'm extremely introverted when I'm at home.
Same.
Like, I just to be to myself in my peace and quiet, living my life and reading my books. But when I travel, it's just like, I don't know anything about these people. Like, let me be open and, meet some cool people and hear some great stories. Like, that's part of the appeal of travel to me.
Yeah, same. I just always meet people and have conversations with them that I never have when I'm not traveling. And I'm pretty introverted myself, but when I'm traveling, like I feel like a little bit more friendlier. Maybe it's because I'm in a better mood because I'm traveling, but I feel like more like comfortable like approaching people. When I first started traveling, I was still a little like timid and like shy to like ask people like, where am I going, or like, where is this? But now I'm like a lot more comfortable, and I guess I'm like an extroverted traveler, and if you will. But yeah, I'm a lot more outgoing when I travel.
Yeah, like for me, I think it's that removal of that fear of judgment.
Yeah.
Because it's like, of course, people obviously are still going to judge you. It doesn't change just because you left, like, where you're from. But it's different. Like, they might judge you, but thankfully you don't know what they're talking about. So it's kind of like that fear of being judged or being watched or being seen in a negative light just for being yourself, like, really goes away. Like, for me,
I agree.
that is the high point of travel. And it's also, like, I deal with anxiety and I do have a depressive disorder. So for me, it's like when I travel, my own voice changes. Like, it's not like, oh my God, they're looking at me. Are they wondering if I'm okay? Are they going to ask me, did I eat? Like, all of that goes away. Like, that conversation that's in my head just changes. And for me, that's a big difference. Like, that's probably why vacations and traveling are better for me than most people, because it's like one of the few times where I actually relax and the what ifs go away.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that.
When you plan your trips, do you ever consider, like, if I go here, I may not see anyone else who looks like me, or are you kind of just, like, down for the cause no matter what?
I'm down for the cause no matter what, but I am aware of that. It's something I think about. But,
like,
yeah, it's just, I maybe, other than, I think I've met two, but they weren't American, they were from London, and I guess that's, like, another thing, too. I've never actually met, Black Americans traveling.
I actually did. On my train to Casablanca, I met a guy from Boston who had, like, come up from Senegal and, like, taken the train in from Fez and some other shenanigans. But, yeah, no, I definitely get you with that. Most of the people I do meet are British, for sure.
Yeah, and that's great, too, because I really enjoy meeting British people. I really like them a lot.
I feel like I'm one of those people that has to grow on them. Like, at first they're just like, oh my God, this weird American with the green hair. You're a lord. And then it's like, after a while, they're like, oh, she's cool.
To the listeners, thanks again. Check out Felicia's blog and see what she's up to. And she's got your blog is actually very, very helpful for those that don't know a lot about traveling, because you kind of have a breakdown of a few things. I saw that you gave some pretty great advice for finding cheap flights. All of those apps and websites I would recommend, they're on her blog. And then also the breakdown of what to carry on a plane and like the carry-on size of things, I also found to be very, very helpful.
Yeah, when I actually launched my blog, everything I posted was kind of like beginner travel things. So there's a piece on how you actually get your passport if you don't have one. I did a piece on like all of the Trusted Traveler programs, so TSA Pre, Global Entry, Clear. I went over all of those and what the process looks like and what the differences are. And then there's even an article where I detailed my own experience with actually applying for Global Entry. So there's a lot of like first-time traveler, you have no idea what to do and you don't know what to look for type of stuff on there.
Yeah, and that's what I really liked about your your blog. So yeah, check that out if you're feeling lost and scared about traveling. Felicia can help you out. I can also help you out too, but she can help you out.
I'm happy to help you out.
But yeah, thank you again for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me again. I really enjoyed this. It's been a great talk.
Yeah. Goodbye to everybody.
Bye, everyone. Safe travels.
Safe
Happy
travels.
exploring.